Now I'm going to talk about shedding shame and guilt. Now, before I get started though, I want to mention something. This shedding shame and guilt, this is not going to be you watch this Valerie's video and boom, you got rid of shame and guilt. All of this stuff takes time and practice and probably additional tools and resources, some of which I have for you. But wherever you get them from, it is going to be probably lifelong for you to really get to a point where you've gotten rid of all the shame and guilt, because it tries to creep back in. Your beast is not going to leave you alone, because your beast does not want you free. He does not want you to be all you can be. So again, none of this is one and done, but let's get you started on the road. First of all, let's talk about shame. Shame is kind of different from guilt, right? Because guilt says you've done something wrong. You've done something bad. Shame says you are wrong. You are bad. When I started on this journey with my daughter Jamie and her addiction, I didn't know anyone else who had a son or a daughter in addiction. It was me. I didn't know anyone else. And I felt like I was on an island. I must be the worst parent in the world. How could this be happening? How embarrassing. You know, what must people think of my parenting? And here's the deal. I didn't have to think about what they might be thinking of my parenting. I already knew, because I used to stand in harsh judgment of other parents. I did. And when Jamie got into her addiction, I had to fall off my soapbox hard. You know, I got this hematoma on my head from that one. And so I understood what people were thinking. But I finally said, you know what? Everybody has a story. And I really learned when I started to share my story, and I'm not talking about publicly, because that's probably how you found me, is through social media or, you know, somehow in the messaging that I'm doing now. I'm talking about when I would just be brave enough to tell people, yeah, my daughter's in addiction. She's addicted to heroin, which, you know, was shocking for me for the first, I don't know how many times. To use the word Jamie and heroin in the same sentence was mind-boggling. But when I finally was brave enough, when I had the courage to do that, people would then share stories with me. Not always about addiction, but often, yes. And so I realized that everybody has a story. Now, sadly, in the years that have elapsed since that beginning stages of Jamie's addiction, so many people know people or have people in their family. And that's really a sad reality. The point is, everybody has a story. And even if it has nothing to do with addiction, everybody's got stuff. Okay? If you're on the outside peering into the window of somebody else's life and it looks perfect, they haven't cleaned their windows in a while. So it's time for you to shed that shame. I know we're in this age of shaming, where that's like the cool thing to do now, is to jump on social media and shame the heck out of everybody and give your opinion about everything. Let that go. You didn't cause any of this. It's not because unless you held your son or daughter or your loved one down and stuck a needle in their arm, it's not your fault. So start working on letting go of that shame, because it will suffocate you. And then the guilt, which I touched on. The guilt where you think that it has something to do with you. So I had this friend years ago when Jamie was smack dab in the middle of her addiction, and she said to me, "This isn't about you." Whoa, I thought, what do you mean it's not about me? Well, the bottom line is that it affected me deeply. But it really wasn't about me. Like I mentioned on a previous video where Jamie said, it wasn't your fault. This has nothing to do with you. Yes, our stories are interwoven and it affects me. It affects you. But you didn't cause this. And I think what happens is that we're looking for somebody to blame. And for me, it was easier for me to point the finger at myself than even at Jamie or her addiction beast. So really start working hard on shedding shame and giving up guilt. It's going to be really hard for you to move forward in life with those two tagging along.